Finally tonight, a look back on another era, another generation, another war, but the same city. St. Louis may have been far from the front lines of Europe and the Pacific in World War II, but there were those days and some nights where that war hit pretty close to home.
Now every American asks only, what can I do to help my country?
I think I felt like a junior soldier. And as a Boy Scout, my troop was able to go door to door to get people to buy war bonds. We wouldn't sell it to them, but we would have them fill out a form, and they would take it to the post office. And when we sold, I'm going to say $3,000 worth of bonds, we were given a little medal.
We did go on scrap metal drives at the time, and I believe we got to get off of school for a half a day or so to do this, go around the neighborhood and collect any kind of metal that was available.
All the kids wanted to get involved, to do something to help, because we knew our servicemen were serving our country, and if this was the only thing that we could do as children, then we did it.
No city, village, or single house in all America can be considered safe so long as it shows a light which can serve as a beacon for enemy bombers. How safe will our homes be when the war in the sky comes closer and real blackouts begin? Not test blackouts, but blackouts when enemy bombers roam the sky looking for a target.
We had our first test of a blackout. Every light in St. Louis was turned off.
On December 14, 1942, St. Louis, along with a large part of the country, underwent its first blackout drill. Mayor Becker and Civil Defense Coordinator Colonel Harry McBride went to the top of the Civil Courts building to watch how St. Louis would respond. At 10 p.m., all lights were to be put out or blocked by curtains.
In just a moment, you'll see the steps that a householder should take if he wants to prepare his residence for an effective blackout. Steps that you can suggest to your neighbors who look to you for advice on these matters.
And my dad was going around the block, and he was the area warden, and I peeked out the window, and he said, "Cover those windows." And we knew when he opened his mouth, he meant what he said.
But there's the alarm, Mr. Jones. Can this be a real raid, Mr. Jones? Will enemy bombers be overhead in a few minutes? Is this the real thing?
I never understood what the air raids were about. My mom would say, okay, we got to close all the blinds and turn out all the lights. And we'd sit out on the front porch, and my mom would say, I can't even smoke because they'll see us. And I always wondered, well, who is this and where are they going to come from? But it was kind of exciting, and the only thing that I really felt a little nervous about was when we had these air raids.
As far as food is concerned, we had adequate amounts of food. No one really ever suffered from shortages, at least that I was aware of.
Seems to me if I was one of them big fellas in Washington, I'd just set me down and do a bit of thinking. Kind of try to figure out some system to spread the food all over thin so it'll cover more. See what I mean?
They heard him in Washington and worked out a system to make the food go around. A plan to see to it that everyone gets an equal share of what there is. That plan is called rationing.
I remember quite a few of those days that we didn't have meat on the table. I would do the shopping, and at that time we would have to change our clothes from play clothes to dress clothes, and then I would walk the 8 blocks to Seeloff Market, and I would stand in line. Sometimes it would be like a half a day, 3/4 of a day, and you would wait until you got your turn, and then you'd have to use your rationing stamps.
The biggest sacrifice for me was bubble gum. We weren't able to get bubble gum.
Everybody gets their share, no more griping anywhere.
Mother could always get sugar. If she wanted sugar for canning, she would trade maybe some other stamps that we didn't need at the time to get her sugar and then do her canning.
The war in Europe ended in May 1945. Japan surrendered in August. Both victories brought celebrations downtown, in Midtown, and in neighborhoods throughout the St. Louis area.
We tied a 55-gallon drum lid to the back end of the car with it and drug that thing around the streets down there just to make some noise.
My mom and dad said, come on, we're going to go and celebrate. And I remember thinking, well, what are we celebrating? We had a little car, a convertible, Crosley. And I remember going at Elm Avenue and down Lockwood and honking and waving flags, and people were in the street and just shouting and dancing.
No community was untouched or unchanged, and American history continued to be written after the battles were over and the war was won. For here began the reunion of the parents, the men, the women, and the children who had each experienced in their own way a world war. The soldiers had their stories, but those who had stayed behind had also done their part. They too had been on the front lines of change, on the home front.